separate data. AB subfunctions, but like ultimately they're downplaying like graph lines.
Okay. Yep, I think that's a major concern.
Similar to that, if you're just looking for interesting findings, you're going to find interesting findings.
Okay, so there's the issue of data mining. So we have one issue here, which is there's incentives to report something positive, maybe by the researcher, maybe by the government that did it, or the donor. So they put millions of dollars into this, and they don't want to show their programs of failure. Beyond that, if you want to find intellectually interesting findings, you may data mine to find some really unusual pattern, but it could just be the result of 1 out of 20 significant coefficients. Or,
Things like this pre-announcement might be especially relevant in accountability issues, and are you working, are you structuring the way to see what you want? So I mean, following up on that, this might be a particular good situation.
so the pre-analysis plan by tying people's hands could lead to just more credible result and therefore better accountability. Way in the back? Oh, both of you. Let's take turns.
I don't know who have passed, but everybody who's also like, you might see that when there's no result and nothing gets published, then you might not know you see a lot of times, you go back to the comments of multiple things for issues. And so knowing what people intended to do,
Yep.
they're not only just out and say, we have this body by issue, but they're also
Exactly. So publication bias is a big concern. It's a bit related to the incentives facing researchers. Maybe part of the reason the researcher wants to report a positive effect or something interesting is to get published. And if the studies that have zero impact never get published, we never see them, we never learn about them. But registering a pre-analysis plan would mean that data is in the public domain, basically. Yeah, way in the back. Yeah. Exactly, and we ran into some of that with this study because for some sets of outcomes we don't find big positive impacts, and the donors weren't particularly happy about that. And so we felt like it gave us some protection, and I'll come to that. One last point on this, yeah.
I think it has to do with the purpose of the randomized control trial, which really is an exploratory study meant to test one hypothesis. And so if you have hypothesis, you kind of know what you're going to be testing and it doesn't impact kind of integrity of the study and not change it. But I think you make the point that not all studies should have a pre-analysis plan, because then you would.
Right. So that's right. So if we divide studies into more exploratory studies and then hypothesis testing studies, if we have a hypothesis ex ante, let's talk about it. Let's make it public and test it. And exploratory data work is a different activity where it may be impossible to have a pre-analysis plan. You have some observational data, and you look for interesting correlations that will then stimulate the next study, which may be a hypothesis-driven study. Okay, so you guys focus on most of the key things. So basically, pre-analysis plan ties researchers' hands to focus on the really central results rather than pulling a subset out of there. It may help researchers resist pressure from policymakers. It may also help them resist the pressure to publish and sort of present results that aren't that generalizable or credible. And the case of pharmaceutical trials is actually, or drug trials, is very informative here. So randomized control trials were being used for decades in medical trials, long before they were used in economics. There was a concern over time in the 80s and 90s that we weren't getting an accurate scientific picture from pharmaceutical drug trials. So pharmaceutical companies would basically fund trials, and there was a concern that they were suppressing results that weren't favorable to them. That was the point that was coming up, that was made, which is, maybe results that have a zero impact and never see the light of day, maybe because of publication bias, or maybe because of active suppression. So maybe I do 3 or 4 drug trials and I only publicize the 1 or 2 that go in the direction I like. But then that's not scientific anymore. So starting around 2000, NIH, the National Institutes of Health, and a lot of the leading journals started imposing a standard that you needed to pre-register medical trials. And at this point, you basically can't get a medical trial published unless you've registered it. So that, A, means you can't suppress results because your study is registered somewhere. I can ask you about it. And I think it also helps studies with zero impacts get published because there's just greater credibility to the whole process. It's seen as a much more airtight result. If you follow standard methodological procedures in RCT, you've registered it, there's a pre-analysis plan, no one can blame you for the zero result. That's what the data says. Okay, click the question. So after having talked through some of the, we mainly talked about the pros rather than the cons, but after talking through these issues, do you feel like introducing pre-analysis plans into the type of development economics research we've talked about so far in the course will be very effective, moderately effective, largely ineffective because you can always find a way around any rule you put in place? D, it depends. Again, maybe they're useful for some types of studies and not others, and we have to figure out that balance. Or E, it's just too early to say, since there's only a few of these pre-analysis plans out there. Okay, so we actually have a pretty good distribution here. Some people think very effective, something moderately effective. A lot of people say it depends. So could someone who has a coherent answer to D, did you answer D, Tom? Do you want to raise a question? So maybe it really depends. Maybe for experimental studies, it makes lots of sense because by design, an experiment is set up to test something. So let's write that down and have a lot of credibility when we test it. But for exploratory studies, for cases where we don't have experimental design, it's a lot harder to see how we would use pre-analysis plans. Now, one of the distinctions people have made, David, do you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that it doesn't, yes, in RCTs it's very effective, but I still need to be effective in other settings. It's not saying you can't publish data if you find it interesting, but you have to at least point to the fact that it's publicly available. This isn't what we expect at the time, but we have this, so I'm not quite sure why it's going to give someone, the next person might go, you can test this thing in a different context, it's actually viable. You can repeat it as opposed to just assuming this is going to work and people sort of replicate the same. Really, it's something that was a surprising finding, not expected, maybe one.
So you're saying maybe it's okay to document surprising findings or go outside the pre-analysis plan to show interesting patterns because someone else will sort of carry the baton next. So we can employ these pretty widely as long as we're flexible in being able to look at other things, something like that. Okay. That's kind of the argument we make in the paper. But this is a totally unsettled area, and there's just like the beginnings of discussion about how these tools should be used in social science research right now. Okay, but just to illustrate the value of it, I want to pick up on the point. There's sort of a reference to sort of spurious findings that you get 5% of the time with a 95% confidence interval. Just to illustrate why we might write pre-analysis plans or pre-registration. Imagine we have an experiment, there's some treatment, and there's 10 different outcomes we might look at. But we haven't written down any sort of pre-analysis plan. So, maybe this is our community-driven development project in Sierra Leone, and we could look at, local public goods, we could look at participation of women in village meetings, we could look at local fundraising, there's a whole bunch of outcomes. So imagine there are 10 actually independent outcomes of interest, called Y1 through Y10. 10 different outcomes. And imagine in reality we know what the data is, and in truth there's no impact of treatment on any of these. There's just no effective program. If there's a 5% chance, imagine all these outcomes are independent of each other. If there's a 5% chance, a zero outcome will be called significant just by the way we set up p-values, and that's how we set up a p-value. You're very unlikely to get a significant p-value, if there's a zero effect, you only get it 5% of the time. If there's 10 independent outcomes, we can actually work out the probability. We're going to get at least one significant coefficient estimate. And that's the formula on the board there. So what we're basically doing is coming up with a formula for saying we're not going to get any significant ones, and then we do 1 minus that probability. And that's what that is on the board. So there's 95% chance we're not going to find significance because we know there's a zero. These are all independent, so we can take the product of them, and we do 1 minus that product. That's 40%. So 10 outcomes isn't a lot. In the CLEO paper, we have like hundreds of outcomes. With 10 outcomes, it's pretty likely. I should have chosen 12 because I would have gotten 50%. But you can do it yourself. There's a 40% chance we're going to get some significant outcome. Why is this a big concern? If people don't know the tests I was planning to run, I can actually say, I can write in my paper and say, all along, I was interested in outcome 7. Outcome 7, which is significant, is clearly the most intellectually interesting. Here's this model, here's this literature. I'm a specialist in outcome 7. And all these other ones are not significant. Of course, we never expect them to be significant. Outcome 7 is the one we expect it to be significant. This is how people write papers right now. I've seen it. So if you can just report what you want, it's very easy to data mine. And once you can data mine, it's a lot like publication bias. It's the same kind of idea. There's actual data out there that we're never seeing and that we're not interpreting the right way. I'm not going to get into the statistical tests here. They're in the paper, which is on your syllabus, but there are adjustments you can use for multiple testing. So if you actually run n different tests, say n independent tests, you're going to get a certain number of spurious, significant coefficients, and you can adjust up your p-values to deal with that. So if you're interested in the technical detail of that, you can talk about it in section, you can read the paper, I can give you the Stata code to do that. But the basic point is even more important to capture here. So the idea is if you register your document, everybody's going to know what you're going to run, and there's a lot more transparency. Okay. Any questions on this before we get to the results of this particular program? This idea? Do you now not believe any research you've ever read? You should be very skeptical of the research you read, seriously. Because people selectively report. Okay, that's depressing. Let's talk about something a little bit better. So what does this program look like? The program is called GoBeFo, and GoBeFo in Creole means move ahead or move forward. So the first component were grants. Again, a lot of CDD programs give grants. These are pretty large grants. They were about almost $4,000 to $5,000 on average per community, which is about $100 per household over the course of these 3.5 years. That's a decent amount of money in a place where per capita income is $300 a year. So these are pretty large grants, and they were meant to go for local public good and also small enterprises. So small grants for local businesses, small grants to allow local youth to get training to be carpenters or tailors, things like that. There was also, as I mentioned before, training and facilitation. So basically, a village committee was elected, and they were trained in accounting procedures. They were trained in building a village plan. Every committee, every VDC got a bank account, and they were meant to keep records that were publicly available, et cetera. So there was really an attempt to build in accountability, better financial record keeping, and also planning. And I will say that there was a gendered component to this in that the treasurer of the VDC was a woman in this program. So they sort of mandated that certain positions were held by women to give them effectively a seat at the table in the VDC and make sure men didn't dominate the whole VDC. Yeah.
I kind of want to take a moment with you about classifying this as community development.
Okay.
This is the top down. You're saying that they're mandating low-income boys.
Yep. Yep.
That tends to not be descriptive of CDD.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually going to the community, finding out what they want, building up from there. It's often using local institutions and then maybe changing them, not creating an entire parallel institution setup that's going to calculate.
It's interesting. Well, there is a third component, which is the sort of attempt to boost participation, which feels more like what you're saying, get people involved, empower them, hold community meetings, facilitate to figure out what their priorities are. So all that occurred too, in parallel with the setup of the VDC. I will say that tons of the many dozens of VDCs funded by the World Bank and big donors look like this. There is the rhetoric out there, even this program used the rhetoric of this is totally grassroots. And in defense of this program, they would say, look, we set up a structure which now allows grassroots participation to occur. And if we hadn't set up the VDC and trained people and given them money, they wouldn't be able to do it. So it's a very tricky thing. How do you promote participation from the grassroots without it being sort of top down? Because you're promoting it. If all you do is let grassroots participation occur, then it's already occurring, right? Because it's there. And so I have no stake in the design of these programs, but this is there were attempts to sort of have women youth run their own programs again in a sort of mandated way. So you could say it's not really CDD, but there was an attempt to empower them, and women were co-signatories on the bank accounts. So what are other people's reactions? Is this real CDD, or is this, what is this? What is this program? Do you have your hand up?
While it's promoting participation, it's more of a participatory project rather than being CDD, at least in terms of, from your paper, I can't really tell, it seems like other people perceive the local village elders to be a problem, that wasn't necessarily done like theory surveys or the people being at the
Yeah.
which largely speaks to it not being community driven. It could also be a large impact of why you find that the institutional change actually happens, because young people didn't have to talk to village elders, so there were so many people into that why they fit along with the
The role of the elders and the chiefs was very interesting. From the start, there were different voices within the government of Sierra Leone and the World Bank team and our research team, some of which were saying, oh, the chiefs and the elders are the problem. They're basically these unaccountable despots that we need to sort of uproot. And others saying, no, they're central to the life of rural Sierra Leone. You can't do anything without them. So others who are just more politically pragmatic and saying, if you challenge them, as I mentioned before, like they'll crush the program. So everybody could run for VDC seats. It turned out local elders and chiefly officials dominated the VDC. So when there were elections held, they ended up being the leader most of the time. They were very well represented. So in that sense, maybe it was really community driven in the sense that, hey, people like their elders and their chiefs, and they were the ones who sort of ran things. But if you do see the chiefs as part of the problem, because women can't be chiefs, women can't participate in the election of chiefs, they're sort of frozen out of that process. Something like a VDC might be the women's only chance to have a voice in some of these affairs. Do you have a comment?
Well, it also shows the fact that it wasn't election because people weren't unhappy with their ruling initially, and simply because women have not culture didn't necessarily have a voice as an elder, that doesn't mean their voices weren't.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's possible. It's tricky. When we discussed the timing here, of course, this was sort of a very standard template that had been used in many countries, but people said you should have all the empowerment first and then the election. Because by having the election right away, it's like maybe women were empowered, maybe they weren't, but like you're never really going to know because the chief stands up and says, we're having an election. I'm running. Okay, you get elected. Do you have your hand up? Yeah. That's a great point. And we actually do have one survey observation a certain period after the funding ended. So we're actually able to go back and see what village governance looks like when the funding has dried up. And that's part of, I think, what the sponsors of the program didn't like. So let me just fast forward, so I'm not going to be able to get through all the results. But the basic point of this program is there were big impacts on building. So money came in. It was actually very well spent. Very little of it was misused. It was very strict accounting. So you see in the treatment villages, or treatment control, you see building community centers. You see grain drying floors. You see investment in livestock and small business. So like money was spent. And these are just some examples of like that's a little bridge that's built, those are latrines that are built. And those are what we call our hardware outcomes. So the hardware outcomes improved in these villages. But then there was all the other stuff. So CDD or community empowerment or local democratization or whatever, all these other words you could use to describe a program of this sort is supposed to change the way villages function. It's supposed to make them more democratic. It's supposed to mean women have more of a voice. It's supposed to mean the chief doesn't dominate decision making. Those were some of the goals of the program. And we measured some of those after the funding ended. And the basic point is that there's big impacts on hardware and basically no impacts on the software outcomes. So we have dozens and dozens of these software outcomes. Everything from do women speak at a village meeting to do people participate in local politics? Are villages able to fundraise on their own, independent of the program? How much money do they raise, et cetera? There's really no impact on any of those. But these are very hard outcomes to measure. And that was part of the reason we put in place a pre-analysis plan, is because we knew there were going to be dozens of outcomes. And we were kind of afraid, what if we find nothing? But 1 out of 20 outcomes is significant. And the donors say, that's the one that matters. We want you to write the paper on that one, or write the report on that one. And it becomes a lot more difficult when we explicitly agreed with the people running the program as to what the outcome measures were going to be, and how we were going to combine them, how we were going to look at them beforehand. So we also developed some new measures. I don't have time to get into them now, but some new measures to get a sense of village governance. Let me just mention one of them. I'm going to talk about what we call communal choice. You'll see the others described in the paper. At the end of the program, the team of enumerators went back to all the villages, treatment and control, and gave gifts to the village for participating in the program, but also said, look, there's actually 2 gifts. You can have a box of batteries that are useful for people's flashlights, that you can distribute, hundreds of batteries you can distribute to everybody in the village, or a box full of small bags of salt, which is also quite valuable in these pretty remote parts of rural Sierra Leone. So they both were sort of small items, similar monetary value, both could be spread among households. And in our piloting, we found villages kind of like both. It was kind of 50-50. So the goal was not actually to see which one was chosen, but to say, look, there needs to be some process to decide which of these 2 gifts the village will get. We're going to be here for the next 24 hours, decide any way you guys want to decide. We don't care. And then the enumerators kind of sat back and sort of like took out their clipboards and saw what happened. And in some villages, on the spot, the local chiefly official said, we're definitely getting the batteries, and took the batteries. And in others, a village meeting was called, and debate went on for 45 minutes, and 20 people spoke, and a vote was taken. So there was incredible divergence in what governance looked like. Now, again, this is small stakes, but it still gives us a window to decision making. The likelihood the chief decided, the likelihood a vote was taken, the likelihood a woman spoke, at least one woman spoke in the village meeting, is no different in the treatment and control villages after 3.5 years of weekly facilitation to try to do all of that. So they're much more deeply seated social structures, chiefly power, and social institutions than can be changed through a program of this kind in a few years. That's one of the punchlines of the paper. So the aid was used well, but if you're thinking of using foreign aid to radically transform institutions, that seems like something that's impossible, difficult, much harder to achieve by foreign aid donors. And I think that sort of humility as to what foreign aid can do is very important, especially because so much foreign aid right now aims toward institutional transformation. Okay, see you guys Thursday.